Hello, and welcome to the 10th episode of the podcast Hot Topics. It's a fire and EMS related podcast, and it's filmed at the HCAM Studios, 77 Main Street in Hopkinton. And the email for it, if you have questions, and I'll bring it up again at the end, any questions fire and service related that you want me to ask on the show, it's hottopics@hcam.tv. Briefly on my bio is I was 44 years with the Hopkinton Fire Department, the last 7 as the fire chief, and I got to do a lot of different things with the marathon. 21 years I was active with the designing and implementing the Marathon Incident Action Plan. I had assignment to the local dive team, the regional technical rescue team, and also for 30 years as a hazmat with the state at the technician level for hazardous materials response. So, but I came from a long line of firefighters, and Lenny and I are cousins, and he comes from his mother and my grandmother were sisters. So it's like way back from in the early 1900s in Hopkinton. I think they moved here right after the Great War in 1918 or 19, whatever it was. So, but today I want to introduce Lenny D. Chesmore. Everyone knows him as Lenny. And it's a 10th episode, like I said. And I want to share his bio. It's very, very impressive. So it's like I'm going to go through that quickly. From 65 to 79, Lenny was a call firefighter and an apparatus engineer with Hopkinton Fire. He was instrumental in training a nucleus group of young guys, myself included, my brother Fran, my cousin Mikey, Jimmy Danahy, a strong nucleus of new firefighters that came in as rough as unsawn wood can be. That when we came in, and he started the molding of us into so that we could be street ready and knew our training. He was really good on the pumps, training like that with us, and I owe a lot to him. He was a great firefighter mentor to me early in my career, and also as he went on and did jobs out there in California, he would send me stuff sometimes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But Lenny worked shifts for the fire department. There was a small amount of career firefighters at the time, and if they had time off, Lenny would fill a lot of those shifts. And from 87, and then he moved his family to California, to Rohnert Park. And then from 87 to 92, he was a fire maintenance technician for the city of Rohnert Park, California. And from 91 to 93, in the county of Sonoma, the city of Santa Rosa, California, fire instructor, a fire investigator, and a materials handler there. And he's been it's in the blood there. So it's like he's always had to be busy with the fire department. Then from 93 to 96, he was a fire battalion chief with the city of La Habra Heights, California. And that's kind of like usually that's not a common thing. It's starting to show up now on the East Coast, but the battalion chiefs, I should say in Massachusetts, they run it heavy in New York City, but that's kind of like a shift leader, and he runs the shifts when they're out on the street. Then from 96 to 98, he was the King County, California, the county fire chief. The county fire departments are really very functional in California, much more than in the East. They got bigger areas, and they take a whole county, and it's just really, really efficient way to do it. And that was one of the things that really hasn't come East strong, maybe someday. And then from 98 to in 98, he was a self-help enterprises, a home builder. And then the one that I am most impressed with is, and he used to send me emails when he was assigned to the state of California, the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. He was a fire and rescue assistant chief of special operations and fire and rescue coordinator, and he worked at the state EOC. And when we get into the questions later for Lenny, he can explain that in great detail. And he was the one that coordinated the fire and EMS, or the fire responses to the wildlands fires in California, which we see all the time on the TV. And it just was mind-boggling me to see a 12,000-acre fire 0% contained when he shared the stuff with me early on. The fires would spread quick. They'd take a little bit they'd be sending resources to it immediately, but it took a while to get it under control. It was just the technology that he had, and that he's just shared me on an email list to look at that. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Look at what they do. Like it was just mind-boggling, the amount of resources that they send and how well coordinated it was. So I'm going to start in with Lenny. Welcome. We get to talk on the phone occasionally, and it's could you explain and I know you grew up in Hopkinton like I did. What was it like growing up in Hopkinton, and what are some of the things that you did when you went to high school here? Your academics, I know you were a really good running back, so it was can you help the crowd remember that remembers you from being in Hopkinton? Can you explain that, please?
Well, it was a great environment, small town growing up, and that's all we knew, and we just cherished it. The biggest thing I found about athletics, you talked about in teams, regardless of what I played and stuff, was a team environment. And that team environment carried on to the fire service, which in the United States and worldwide, it's a team environment. So I think that was probably one of the core things. And as you mentioned, I trained you, but your dad trained me. And my dad was the assistant chief in the fire department, and then he jumped the fence when I joined the fire department. He became a full-time police officer. So anyway, it's in the family, it's in the blood. I hope that answered your question. Any more specifics, go ahead and ask.
Yep. No, it's I remember growing up as a young kid watching you play your football games on Saturdays. None of the games were Friday night lights then. They were all Saturdays. And I think if I remember, it was 22.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so I still remember that. But thank you. How old were you when you started getting involved with the Hopkinton Fire Department?
I was 16. My 16th birthday was when I got my driver's license, and I applied as a auxiliary firefighter.
And explain to me, when you say auxiliary, a lot of that was not a subject matter that I've covered in my Hot Topic episodes. Can you explain to our audience what the auxiliary was and how that functioned?
Auxiliary was a group that people were interested in, and the Hopkins Fire Department took on that group of young people and basically put them through their own little academy. You couldn't go in and fight as firefighting, a structure fire or anything like that on the fire ground until you had received the basic training. And then when you get the basic training, you're allowed to respond. You were basically helping on the outside. You wouldn't go interior and say a structure fire. And then as you progressed and became a call firefighter, which I did when I turned 18, then you became, one of the active members that, help take care of operations.
Yep. And one of the things, I shared it in the studio here earlier, one of the things that I vividly remember with you and I is that we went to a lightning strike one time at the library, and I'm going to see you smile here in a minute because you're going to remember that. I remember you were first up the ladder. You were the senior man, and I was behind you, and a piece of slate came down, and I'm thinking, what, 16 or 18 stitches? Yeah, you still got the scar on your lip. Yeah. So it's like that, I can never remember you coming down the ladder in front of me, and the blood was dripping down between the rungs, you know what I mean?
I didn't know because it was raining.
Yeah. And it was pouring rain, lightning, just lightning bolts coming down, and the library had got hit, which loosened up those ceramic tiles up there, and you owned one. It was perfect timing. You were in front of me, sooner crest that eave, and then something slid down and caught you square right in the face. We had all our gear on, helmets, jackets, boots were all on, and it just found the vulnerable spot. You know what I mean? It is what it is. That was the job that we did. So it was like that still sticks in my mind. When I think of Lenny Chesmore, that's one of the things that makes me smile because it wasn't funny at the time, but you can smile about it now. You know what I mean? So it's I don't know if you've thought about that for a long time. There's a lot of water over the dam since then. Yep. Yeah. So then you made the big move in, I think, 79. We missed you and your family off to California, and it's like, how did you get established coming from Hopkinton in the California Fire Service? What was that? What did you have to do there to get established and be known and to move around, move up? And
that was a very tall hurdle to get over. Back when I joined the fire department in 1965 and going through, they weren't looking for education. They would train you to do the job, and they trained, that's where all my basic training came from. They did a fantastic job. However, in California, they look at it a little different. When a firefighter comes on shift, used to be 24s, now they work 48s here. But they have other duties than just, doing the regular station maintenance and whatever the rank is, the duties around the station. But in downtime, they're given kind of anything the captain or lieutenant gives them to do to help him do his job. So they're looking for education. And that was the biggest thing when I went to many, many interviews, and I couldn't believe how I was not getting to a second interview till I sat down with one of the experienced people who offered some help. And then he realized the big difference. And so it was just my approach to interviews after that is when I got picked up. And then quickly they realized that I had training, and I actually come out number one on a captain's test, and from there it would just go up. And my biggest thing to the young people out there looking, you can never stop learning. Never stop learning. We'd go back to the station, my crew and stuff, they'd done a good job, and they could go to the day room and they could sit back and kick off and do whatever. I'd be with them a little bit, but I'd go out in the fire bay and I'd start studying. And that, I believe, is what elevated me to keep climbing.
yeah, and in the T word that comes up, the training, you emphasize it even as an auxiliary member in Hopkinton, and that's always been a strong point. If you have a successful fire department career and you come from a successful fire department, the training is always, a good training is always part of that. And it's
Yes.
like, it's so important. And I was blessed to have guys like you and Bobby Bartlett and Ricky McMillan and sometimes formal fire department training, but not only that, but from some of the sound people that we had here in Hopkinton, like Artie and Fran Pine, you got life training too, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's what helped me immensely. I was like the biggest wild card in the world coming in there at 15 and a half. And it's like, and those guys molded me, and some days it wasn't very pretty, but it was like, I got the best of like life, and I got the best fire training, and I still am so beholding to those guys who that had faith in me to learn that. You know what I mean? And it's like it's so important.
I agree that you can never get too much training. That's what you rely on at Dark 30. When you're out there, I can remember trying to practice knots, tying knots behind my back, so that it wasn't a second question of how you do it to when you got there in the scene. You've got to operate, and you got to rely back onto your training.
No, training is huge, and even if you do it a lot, you say, "Oh, I could have done this." And we're blessed here in Mass to have a really good fire academy up in Stowe, where we go up to and can get really good classes there. And it's like if you want to be successful, you have to train. Even the formal training outside, or the training outside your department, you got to go and get it. If you have, you got to identify. You kind of got to do that inside self-evaluation and say, "Oh, I need to be better with this." So you go and learn it, and then after that, what else do I need to be better at, and go there. So it's like, nope, I'm 100% in agreement with you. And it's like when you look at people's resumes, you can tell who wanted to make themselves better. You know what I mean, by a resume, and they got all that stuff in there. So it's like, so can you share with our audience your different career moves and what you found going from one place to another when you were in California? I know you had a couple of chief's jobs, a battalion chief's job. Is like, what were the challenges that you saw in each of those steps working you up to the state EOC?
Well, I think basically what you're coming down to is, yeah, I made it all the way the same as you did to have 5 bugles, but I was really not an admin guy. I was an operations guy.
Yeah.
That's probably, why I was only 2 years as a fire chief, but my best years was when I was a fire captain and a battalion chief, and being in the field and watching, the people under my command operate and just helping them coordinate. When you become a fire captain, you know how to run a fire. And so as a battalion chief, all you do is you make sure they're getting all the boxes checked that have to be done, and to help them if they need another set of eyes, is to coordinate. And so that was really, hands-on as you're a captain, and then helping your captains when you're a battalion chief and making that incident go as smooth as possible and come up with a good outcome. Of course, we always have some that don't have good outcomes, but that comes with the job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that was one of my biggest challenges personally was, and I spoke extensively with Ricky about it, was Ricky McMillan, is that going from that being the tip of the spear to back where you can just need to get people resources and get them what they need to be successful interior. And that was a little bit of a challenge for me, but you just learn it. And it was an internal challenge mostly, and it was like, nope, that was a big one for me, and he worked me through that one. So it's like, you know what I mean? And personally, so.
Can I go back a step, please?
You can, you certainly can.
Like a thing, when you said my challenges in going from Hopkinton to California was the education thing. When I got my AS degree in fire science here, that opened the doors to me becoming, moving to another department or to become a battalion chief, whatever, because it just kept going from there. And that's what I did. I never got higher. I didn't get a bachelor's degree in fire as they offer out here, and I didn't go for my master's degree. However, I have enough credits in California to have had a master's degree like my daughter had a master's degree.
Yeah.
But all my courses were in operations. That was my strength. I won't say that was my strength. That's what I liked, and that's what I used. And I didn't go into the admin side, which fire chiefs need better than I could perform at. So when I went from there to the state of California and became the state's field fire and rescue coordinator, that's where the operations training came in. And it really, it was an enjoyable trip. I got to do things that firefighters dream of doing. And so I was successful.
Yep.
Very happy.
Very successful. Now, could you share with us, like during a busy wildlands fire season, a week or a day when you were at the state EOC, moving all those resources around the state to the multiple large wildland fires going on at the same time? Could you just kind of share with our audience what that was like, and how would your day start? What did you do? Maybe give them an example of some of the resources that you moved, and it's like I know it was mind-boggling to me just to read your emails. So it was like, and it put a smile on my face. I said, "Oh yeah, he found his home there, and he's kicking some serious butt doing that." Yes,
let me give a background of what state OES is. The Office of Emergency Services. It's a part of the governor's office, and we are there to coordinate the entire state. I was in the fire and rescue division, and there was a law enforcement. There were people that do other things to help the civilians recover after a disaster. And in California, there are approximately 1,000 fire agencies, and those fire agencies participate in what we call the Fire and Rescue Mutual Aid System. And our job as coordinators in the OES Fire and Rescue branch was to utilize that sharing of resources up and down the state if any agency needed it. And it made no difference if you were a large agency or small agency. All the resources in California that we could put our hands on were available to them. And so basically the Fire EOC, Emergency Operations Center, when a large or multiple incidents or disasters happen, that's when we jump in and we open up the Fire EOC. If there are 10 fires burning in California and one needs 2 engines, one needs 10 engines, one needs 50, our job in the Fire EOC is to go out to the 1,000 fire agencies and pull the resources from mutual aid system. And the big key of that is we never want to drain one specific area because other incidents can come up.
Yep.
So we used to map it out around the state, and depending on the need, whether it was immediate need or was planned need. Immediate need, yeah, we went to the closest resources and got them rolling. If it was planned need, we could take somebody who had an 8-hour drive, get them on the road, and then be ready for the next shift that the operation needed. So we would do that. I had a staff that was in there to take care of it. I just had a whiteboard and I just listed out where they had to reach out to.
Yep.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but you also just didn't do fires. You did like the natural disasters, like if a storm came in, the earthquake. Must have been a lot of training with the earthquake that you do out there in the like the FEMA team activations. You get involved with that?
Yes. I actually special operations, technical rescue, hazmat, weapons of mass destruction. All that fell under that. So the Urban Search and Rescue Program, which I won't say was started in California. We had a heavy rescues and mutual aid system. But OES is to the state of California like FEMA is to the United States. And so that's what we did. I was a duty chief one week when Alaska 261 went down off the Ventura coast. So that was a whole new thing for me, working with the FBI and the National Transportation Safety Board as they come out, and to all local resources to work with that. So basically any disaster fell under OES.
Yep, that's good. It's like, now when you look back, anything you would have done differently, or did you enjoy, just sit back and enjoy the ride?
No, right now I'd do it again if I had the opportunity. I'd start all over again.
I hear you.
It was truly a terrific career.
Yeah, no, I say the same thing. It's like we're on similar paths like that. You know what I mean? It's like mine wasn't as expanding as yours was, but it was like it's the same way. I feel the same way. And I want to thank you for taking time from your very, very busy schedule and spending time in Hopkinton again. I know it's only Zoom. Everyone would like to see you at the coffee shop or something like that and say, hey, Lenny, what's going on, over the spoon. But it's like this would give people a glimpse of you and maybe like refresh a lot of people's memories of Lenny who went to California and some of the important functions that you did out there. And I know that you're always a good resource. We talked often, and it was like, always learn something from you. Thank you. And I'd like to end our segment of podcast, say thank you one more time, and thanks for getting up with the technical stuff to get this Zoom up on. This is the first time the podcast has been involved with that. Thank you. But I got 3 questions from the audience, and from Joe and Hopkins. I said, how will the construction of the new 495 and Mass Pike interchange affect the fire and EMS response? Well, I'm sure that Chief Doherty has a plan going into place because there's a lot of new, at that interchange, there's a lot of new off-ramps. There's a lot of overheads, elevated type of roadways that we didn't have to deal with before. That'll be its own unique, when you throw a little bit of ice on it in the wintertime, its own unique challenge. But I'm sure there'll be some type of response. And as we get down the road and see that come to fruition, I'll get invite Chief Doherty back in and on his emergency management side, we can just spend a question on that, how they're handling that. I know they do a lot of mutual aid with Westboro automatic there. Westboro comes south, we go north. So it's like in the Mass Pike and 495 is an important area, really busy, but they're doing a lot of stuff there, and it's like interesting to watch. From Mike in Hopkinton, does the fire department do any kind of public service training with the citizens of Hopkinton? I know they've always been very involved with CPR, 2 levels, professional CPR and then CPR for the layperson, and they've run those in the station for many months, and they do like one a month. 1 month they'll do, if a nurse or a firefighter or a police officer needs to get that CPR, then they'll do it's a little bit simpler one for the layperson that they teach. So that's a good one. And they also run occasional first aid classes, and I know they go out and help the schools whenever needed to do training on that type of stuff to help them. And my last question I have for the day is from Molly in Upton. On my way to work every morning, I see the apparatus and the firefighters in front of the station. What are they doing? I said, they're doing 2 things. They're doing equipment checks, and they pull the truck out. Usually when it's nice, they pull the truck out, or even in the winter, and they go through all the equipment. On certain days, all the apparatus has to be checked, and they need to ensure that at the beginning of the shift, so it's usually done pretty close to 7, which is the shift change in Hopkinton, is as they pull those out, they go through all the equipment. If you're going by, you'll hear the saws running. That was my favorite thing when I was upstairs in the corner office. I could hear the saw. That's a sound that I like, is the roof saws and the cut saws running. And it's like, but they'll go through all the equipment. I stopped by last week. They were out there, and they were going over and doing the equipment check on the extrication tools. It's battery-powered extrication tools. And so they were getting up to speed on them, make sure they're ready to go to the next call. And they just go through all the equipment, charge batteries as needed. They get some hand time on stuff. And that's what they're doing out there. And you'll see different days. The ambulances get down every day. The medics do that on their shifts. So it's like, that's kind of like what they're doing out there. And you'll see the ladder thrown, or you'll see some hose pulled off the truck. They're doing something. So it's like the ladder will be extended out over Main Street. But those are my questions for today. And I want to remind the people in the audience, when we have, if someone could send in questions, it's Hot Topics at hcam.tv, and feel free, if you have a question on something, you see something out in the street that you don't know about, or hear something in the newspaper, send me an email, and if I don't know the answer to it when I see it, I'll go chase the Chief Doherty, and say, hey, what's the answer to this particular question here? So thank you very much. I want to thank my cousin Lenny again for making himself available Zoom all the way from Sacramento, California, and I want to reach out to everybody. Our time is up for today, and I want to say thank you, and I'll see you at the next episodes of Hot Topics. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Be safe.